Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. I'm not even going to do the big old intro because we're kind of pressed for time this week. And, you know, we've got, obviously you cannot blow through what is 75 week and everything that goes into that. And yeah, we're double dipping tonight. We're going to do a really fairly early preview. It's about early weekish, I would say. So there still might be some news that breaks, but we're going to break it up into two episodes like we always do. But just know that it's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Tuesday night. This is when you're going to get the preview. And of course, we're doing the wrap up here. So forget all the formalities this week. We've got a lot to cover. A lot has gone on. Hell, I didn't even remember to turn my hat around so people can't even see my beautiful face. But tell you what, get me rolling with a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Had to do the Lincoln Hawk. You know, it's kind of like the switch for those that know about Over the Top. If you don't, I suggest you watch Over the Top.
It's a documentary.
Russ, it was a hell of a lot that went on this week, and some great individual news has come out. And you know, we got some teams in some big situations right now, and of course, I want to cover it all. So let's start off with 5 things that every Herd fan needs to know this week.
5 things. It's actually 6 this week. 6 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, Kylie Maston named Sunbelt Conference Women's Runner of the Year.
Oh, how did I miss that? Man, I
have no idea.
Completely missed that. That was awesome. I think that is definitely a thing that this Herd fan needed to know this week.
Yeah, we talked about previous, you know, she was honored on the field, you know, and everything. But the Sunbelt just said, hey, you know, who else but Kylie? So she is the Sunbelt Conference Women's Runner of the Year. Add that to all the accolades she has.
That's freaking awesome, man. That is freaking awesome. Thank you for surprising me with that bit of news. So hopefully there's some other Herd fans out there that like hearing that too. Good for her, man. What a start. Awesome.
Number 2, after the ULM game, Jordan Houston was named to the Paul Hornung Award honor roll. He had 170 all-purpose yards in that game, 80 rushing, 29 receiving, and 62 returning.
What an awesome all-around game. That was like, I don't know, I guess you could call that Jordan Houston's breakout game, because it, you know, as a running back, you think of that breakout game when you hit that, you know, 4-touchdown day or that 200-yard day. But man, this was an unbelievable all-around game for Jordan Houston, in a game, of course, we'll talk about in a little bit, where those running backs really had to pick up the slack because A.J. Turner was out, you know, for a good chunk of it. He didn't have his normal type of game, and I'm assuming he was still not 100% from the week before. But good news for Jordan Houston. He's been really, really effective this last month of the season for sure.
Well, not to conflate the two, we're talking about the ULM game that he did.
Right.
This is what he got the award for.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about Southern Miss game. Still.
Yeah,
but he's been unbelievably effective in all phases over the last month or so. So I might have gotten my dates mixed up, but still, the point I was making stands. Still accurate.
Yes. Number 3, Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos, Temu Okiyoshi, and there it is, Takahiro Fujita are all named to the Sunbelt Conference all-conference teams. Dos Santos and Okiyoshi made first team, and Fujita made the second team.
Yep, not surprising, right? Obviously, some of the best on the pitch for the Herd this year. All year they've been producing and doing what they do. I tell you what surprised me was that the Herd did not garner any individual award, and that's been almost like commonplace. We didn't get an anything of the year, and that was, I don't know, that, like, I know the West Virginia fellas had them a good season, and of course, they did what they did, and I don't think if Marshall would have locked up the Sun Belt Championship that those votes would have swayed any other way. But it was just surprising to me that Marshall didn't land any individual awards other than all conference teams. But any way you want to look at it, man, these guys have had a really good year. It is not over yet, and they can still make plenty of freaking noise, man.
Number 4, I'm going to butcher this name, and I really need to hear this pronounced correctly, because there's one thing I like to do on here is get people's names right. Mm-hmm. Right. So please forgive me, but Ksenia Luniashina being named Sunbelt Conference Swimmer of the Week, and Grace Kelsheimer gets her 3rd Sunbelt Conference Diver of the Week. Last week, that meant that for the 3rd time this week, Women's Swim and Dive swept the pool for the weeks for the Sunbelt Conference.
Yeah, they have been honestly quietly on a ridiculous tear lately. I mean, ridiculously quiet, and I get it, man. There's not a lot of swim and dive fans out there, but man, they've been on one hell of a run here again over the last month of the season. Wow. I mean, we've got to be getting close to SBC championships, right?
Yeah, it is. It's coming up. We'll talk about it on our next show, and we'll preview it. But again, right now, there's only 4 teams in the Sunbelt Conference, but, you're going up against swimmers on your own team to get these awards, and then everyone else in the conference for what they're doing against these other opponents for, being able to sweep. I mean, getting one is impressive. Getting both of them for the 3rd time this year, they're getting it done in the pool.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
All right, number 5, our game at Old Dominion has been elevated to ESPNU and has a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. That'll be November the 23rd.
Ooh, late November night game in Norfolk.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. The wife and I got, tickets a long time ago, and then got hotel rooms a couple weeks ago before we knew when the game was going to be. I'm actually not a huge – this doesn't move it a lot for me that it goes to ESPNU because of those linear channels. It seems to be the one that is on the least amount of cable packages or, gets the most things. So it's not like something like going to ESPN2 or ESPN proper, which would really, really be that. But anytime you get more eyes nationally, it's a great thing. So love to see it.
I wonder about that. See, I'm with you because what that means for me individually, and probably a lot of Herd fans is you go elevated from ESPN Plus to ESPNU, and now I can't watch the game. That.
I think that it's still available on both because it seems to me like if you have, I get what you're saying. If you don't have ESPNU, you might not be able to watch it. But there's been a couple of times like certain TVs in my house are not logged in to like YouTube TV or something that has the package, and I have not put the password in for the TV provider or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I've still been able to watch those on ESPN Plus. So I don't know. I'd have to do a little bit of research to get the exact answer.
But you are also logging in with a like YouTube TV account or something.
No, that's what I'm saying.
All we have is like the Disney package,
right?
So, and I don't get any. I don't think I get anything else.
What I'm talking about on certain TVs, I'm not logged in with a TV provider, and on that TV, I'm still able to watch on the ESPN. It says watch it on this or ESPN Plus. So I don't know. I would have to check, but it seems like I've done that earlier this year for one of the ESPNU games. But that is a good thing to bring up. Again, if it was ESPN2, it would be a little more but when you look at the ratings breakdown, ESPNU and that 7:30 slot is always the lowest number because it's going up against your ABCs, your CBS, your ESPNs, ESPN2s, and it seems to be one of those primetime games that's a big game that it's going up against. So it doesn't really matter, but we never get to see the breakdown of what an ESPN Plus viewing brings in anyway. They don't publish those. So
Yeah.
At least we know that it's available nationally for people to tune in.
Yeah, it will be available for the whole country. I mean, I guess so is ESPN Plus. It's available for everyone too.
It is, but more people still have cable packages than they do the ESPN Plus streaming, and that blows my mind.
I'm one of those that does not.
Yeah.
But I get it. Yeah. And it also makes me wonder if, like, since it was elevated, and is that why it's now a night game? Was that originally probably going to be a 3:30 game, and now, it's going to be a chilly one down there in Norfolk. So
it will be cold.
Prepare.
I'm going to go anyway. Number 6. This is the thing that could be a list of things in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So here is everything you need to know about Money Mike Green this week. Let me run down these and then we can talk about all of them. Tied for first in FBS in sacks with 13.0. Leads FBS in sack yards with 107. Leads FBS in tackles for loss with 17.5. He's had at least one in every game this year. Leads FBS in tackle for loss yards with 117. Leads defensive lineman in FBS with 60 tackles. For the week of the ULM game that we were just talking about with Jordan Houston, he was the SBC Defensive Player of the Week and the Reese's Senior Bowl National Defensive Player of the Week. Named to the Lombardi Award watch list that came out this week, and named the Bednarik Award semifinalist that came out this week.
Yep.
That is but a little bit that you need to know about Money Mike Green, because we could probably list thing after thing after thing. 3 sacks in that game, all in the first half. I don't think he played a snap in the second half. If he did, 1 or 2.
Yeah, first out of the gate, boy, did we call that one.
Yeah.
We had just talked about how Southern Miss gave up 9 sacks to JMU, and here comes Mike Green and her defensive line with the whole defensive unit, really. But yeah, we only get 5, but Mike gets 3, so it is what we thought it was going to be. What else can you say about Mike Green? The season, if he didn't take another snap, this would be one of the best defensive end seasons in Herd history. And he's still got at least 3 games to go, 4 counting a bowl game, and you're not out of it yet. So you could potentially be looking at a Sun Belt Conference championship game. I'm telling you, man, this is historic. This is historic. This is what is great about the transfer portal. For all the things that go wrong, this is what's great about it, because this is something that's worked out in the favor, of Marshall, and that's why we're happy about it. But this kid was buried, right? He didn't have much of an opportunity going at UVA. He hit the portal, and he comes here, and he falls under the tutelage of Herd great Ralph Street and starts to thrive. And we saw it. We saw glimpses of it last year. And coming into the preseason, when we were doing position group breakdowns, when we would be guests on other shows, all before any of this happened, we were saying Mike Green is the guy that you need to pay attention to. He's going to have a special year. He's going to be a Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year candidate, might be the odds-on favorite. And some people kind of went, oh, okay, good. And I think others just kind of shrugged it off, like, well, this guy didn't do anything really last year, but they're just looking at a stat sheet. They weren't looking at the games that we were looking at, So, you're buried for the first part of the season behind Owen Porter and Sam Burton. You're not just going to set those guys because they're great defensive ends, right? So we knew this was going to be special. I still didn't know it was going to be this special. And we still got roughly a quarter of the season to go.
I'm going to wrap up with a little bit of Steve Cotton stuff. I'm just going to read off this stuff. The 30 sack yards that he got in that game and the 3 sacks are tied for number 2 on MU's all-time list. The only guy with more lost yards on sacks in a game was Tony Boland, who had 34 on 2.5 sacks versus Weber State in 87. Green now has 13 sacks on the season for 107 yards lost. Both numbers now lead the nation. As we said, he also leads the nation tackles for loss, 17.5 and 117 yards lost on those plays. We mentioned that. Here's the stuff. Green's 13 sacks this year, number 6 all time at Marshall. Number 1 is Cecil Fletcher with 17. So he's got 3 games that for the regular season to get 4 more sacks. That was in 86 and are the most since Jonathan Goddard's 16 in 2004. The 107 yards lost are number 4 at Marshall, and the most since Goddard's school record, 113. So he's only 6 yards away. Green's 17.5 tackles for loss are tied for number 18 on the Marshall list. The record is 29 by William King in 1993. I tell you what, those King guys from the early 90s. Whew.
Watch the film. Man, you youngins need to go find the film.
You don't know.
William King, Shannon King. There are some games on YouTube. You can watch some playoff games from the early 90s and mid-90s. Go watch them.
The 117 yards lost are already number 6, the most since 110 by Vinnie Curry in 2011. That school record is 162 by Goddard in 2004. That would be tough to get. But if you don't know, looking at Tony Boland and Cecil Fletcher in the mid to late 80s, those two are like number 1, number 2, and they were here around the same time. And to be right there with Jonathan Goddard and those two, that he could pass all of them this year, this might be the best season that we've seen statistically from a defensive lineman here at Marshall. And just think of the people that we have had here at Marshall.
Well, statistically, I know you threw that word in there, but also it passes the eye test. He's disruptive as hell. You know, he is you cannot account for the guy. You can't. Nobody has been able to all year long. Now, there have been some games where some teams he has not gotten a sack, but he was still disruptive as hell in the game, you know, and opened up opportunities like, for Jabari Ishmael, remember, he opened up opportunities in that game. Late in the game, he causes the fumble that ultimately allows the Herd to win that game. Yeah. So you are seeing a historic season, and that's not hyperbole, right? For everything that people like to sensationalize all the time, like everything's the greatest thing going right now, this is a historic season that we are watching play out in real time. And that leads me right into saying, if I were able to be at the game on Saturday, I would be there. So anybody that has the opportunity to be at that game and is just kind of choosing to not go, I don't know why, because there's so many reasons. We'll talk about them later. But since we're talking about Mike Green, you could see school records broken on 75 week. And if that doesn't scream special to you, I don't know what does as a Herd fan.
And he walked. And we've seen, you know, he can come back, but this could be his final game at Marshall Stadium, a home game for you to go see Mike Green. It could be. We don't know, but it could be.
I think it will be.
I do too.
Because one of two things is going to happen. He's going to go to the draft, and he's going to get drafted because he's a draft-eligible player, right? The Senior Bowl's been all over him, and we talked about that months ago, how rare it is to see the redshirt sophomore get the invite to the Senior Bowl. But it's going to come. You know, it's going to come. Or the other thing is he'll go through the process, and maybe his draft stock isn't where they want it to be, which I don't see how it wouldn't be.
There's no
and
way.
Some college team is going to back the freaking Brinks truck up. It's just the way it's going to be, man. An edge rusher like that, I mean, we can do all we can do, but you're not going to outspend a team like Miami or Ohio State, or it's not going to happen. So unless he just absolutely loves being here and is willing to be like, screw it, I want to be at Marshall, for all intents and purposes, I think on Saturday is the last time you will see Mike Green at Joan C. Edwards Stadium, and you better be there for it.
Unless some way, somehow we host the Sun Belt Conference championship game. Lots of things to figure out with tiebreakers and stuff like that, though, on how that would go. All right, so that ends our this week's 6 things with a bunch of Mike Green bonus things.
Yeah.
that every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Nightlink.
Man, if you didn't know what Mike Green was on to, you have not been watching Herd football at all this season. But that does lead right into one hell of a recap. We had Southern Miss on the slate, and we both expected there to be big wins by the Herd. They did not let us down. There were some things that were just good to see. Number one, right out of the gate, the road losing streak is snapped. The conference road losing streak is snapped. Marshall went in and played a team that they were supposed to beat handily, and they beat the team handily. This was not one of those games where Marshall played down to their competition. And I'm going to say it from the outset so we don't have to repeat ourselves over and over again. We love Southern Miss. We hope they get good soon. But I'm not going to be apologetic about what we're going to talk about because this was an ass whooping. I mean, this was a straight up ass whooping against a team that does not have very much going for them right now. Nothing seemed to work for them, and it sucks. To that end, 37-3. The Herd is now 6-3 on the season, bowl eligible, and 4-1 in conference. They're keeping it alive, keeping the hopes alive for that SBC title game appearance. A 3-game winning streak for the first time this year for the Herd. So pretty good this last month. Let's get into these indicator stats. We're going to fly through it and get right to grades because that's where the money's at. Total yards, time of possession, first downs, third downs, penalties, and turnovers, all a clean sweep by the Herd. Total yards, 526 to just 183 for Southern Miss, and they had under 100 up until the end of the game. Marshall's defense smothered the hell out of USM. Time of possession, 33-25 for the Herd, 26-35 for Southern Miss. First downs, 21-8 in favor of the Herd. Third down, 6 of 16, not too bad for Marshall, just 1 of 14 for Southern Miss. Penalties, 5 for 40 for the Herd, 10 for 79 for Southern Miss. 2 turnovers for Marshall, which is ugly, but 4 for Southern Miss is even uglier. You can see easily how this one got out of hand for the Eagles. Braylon Braxton went most of the way for the Herd, 14 of 21 for 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 13 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Stone Earl was in for a drive, maybe 2. I think it was just 1.
I think it was 1.
Through the trio of passes, maybe.
4.
And then Cole Pennington got in for a drive. He did not throw a pass, but he did enter the game. Ethan Payne led the way for the Herd on the ground, 13 carries, 104 yards, back-to-back great games for Ethan Payne, and a touchdown with a long of 36, average 8 yards per carry. Christian Fitzpatrick, 2 receptions for 78 yards, an average of 39 for the Herd. Of course, bulk of it came on that first play from scrimmage, 69-yard bomb. Beauty. Toby Payne, 2 receptions, 34 yards, and the receiving touchdown from Braylon Braxton. Ian Foster led the way for the Herd on defense. I'm assuming some of this was also special teams tackles, but it was 8 total tackles, 3 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 passes defended. Jaden Yates with 6 total tackles, 1 solo, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a fumble recovery. And then Money Mike, 5 tackles, 4 solo, 3 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, which you mentioned. Impact plays for the Herd, there were a lot of them. 5 total sacks, 12 tackles for loss in this game. 3 INTs, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. The defense was friggin' everywhere. Those interceptions come by Landon Watson to Sean Jeter, and a beauty from a 6'6" D end, Braden Ward. Wow, what an athletic play. Shout out Riverside High School up there. That's my old neck of the woods, by the way. I'm a former DuPont Panther, and they are no longer around. Sacks came, as we mentioned, 3 from Mike Green, 1 by Chris Thomas, and 1 by Jadarius Green McKnight. Nathan Totten stepped in for the special teams duties. He went 3 of 5 on field goals with a long of 27, 4 of 4 on extra points. Alec Clark punted just 1 time for 42 yards, and Ian Foster also had a kick return for 27 yards. Nothing super outstanding in the punt return game, so that is what it is. That was the Herd's day in a nutshell. Let's go to grades. Russ, quarterbacks.
And for all these grades, I feel like for a 37-3 game, people listening are going to say, what's this guy smoking? Because we could have done so much better. I got a B- here for Braxton. And the interception was, it looked like he was throwing and did not even see the defensive back there. So ding him for there, and a few misreads that especially when they were in the red zone on the first drive of the game. A couple misreads, missed some receivers that might have been open, threw over top of, I can't remember who it was now on that 4th and goal or 3rd and goal or whatever down there on the first drive. And looks like he took a couple of sacks because he was dancing around, couldn't find somebody. Amazing game by him, but those little mistakes, if we're going to nitpick, I'm going to nitpick. I got a B-.
Well, that's fair, right? But I got to point this out because I wanted to talk about this last time, but I didn't get to work it into the conversation. But that talking point would have been moot this week anyway. Those 220 yards, get this, first time I heard quarterback has passed for over 200 yards in a game this season. So last week, my talking point was that our high, I think, was 176 or something up to that point, and that too was Braxton just that particular week. So a little bit of a hotter hand, but boy, is it hard to not have a hot hand when your high total on the year is 176 or 150 or, we're hovering around that area. But 220 was good. We left a lot to be desired. We did leave opportunities. And, of course, when you tack on missed field goals on top of that, that sucks, against a good team that can and has bitten you and bitten us. Unfortunately, Southern Miss they couldn't get anything going offensively at all. And man, not until the end when it was like wholesale changes for the herd and it was second team defense and all that. B- is fair. What do you got for the offense as a whole?
Also a B-. We went 6 of 9 in the red zone, and get this, before we missed a red zone scoring opportunity, 32 straight times opponents of Southern Miss had been in the red zone. They were 130 out of 133. If you remember when we were doing our preview, they bumped up from this game all the way to 97 in the nation. They moved up 33 spots based on us going 6 out of 9 against them. Of those 6, 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals. So we left some points on the board by missing field goals. I know that's special teams, but we missed some points by not getting should have been touchdowns. Like I said, wide open receiver. No one was on him. I think it was Chuck Montgomery, now that I'm remembering. Threw it he could have underhand rugby style thrown it to him. He overthrew him, and we missed a touchdown. We also had drop passes that would have elevated that 220 yards for Braxton. We had turnovers, 2 that you mentioned, and then a couple other that we fumbled that we got back. The penalties that we got, and we gave up a couple of sacks. So B-, we could have done better. It seems like this is a game that we could have easily dropped 50, and we didn't.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. If a lot of those opportunities go the way you would like them to go, you're looking at a 50-3 game or maybe worse. Fair grade, though. Defense,
A+. Nothing lower. Listen, going into the final 2 drives for Southern Miss, they were hovering right around 100 yards total in the game. The TV showed 90 at halftime, but when I went back and did my rewatch, and I'm just going through drive by drive, I had it at 56 total at halftime that we had given up. And I think what they did is they weren't taking away when they were going backwards and stuff like that. So I may have thrown some penalty yardage in there into my 56, but I think they were also not taking into effect some of the sack yards in there as negative. So no way that you look about this with the turnovers, with the sacks, with the disruption of everything. It was just A+ all around.
Well, and you take into account they finally did drive down like you were talking about, and we get an interception in the end zone by the second team defense. So everybody did their job. But I think the thing to me that was most telling was this pass defense by Marshall. Ethan Crawford, Southern Miss quarterback, 5 of 18 for 70 yards.
70 yards.
70 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. QBR of 2.4. Man, they were all over that guy. And again, you hate it for him, but boy, oh boy, is it nice when you outpace a team or outmatch a team and you live up to the hype in a game. Like so often Marshall doesn't do that, and they did it in this one. Special teams, we got.
I've got a C minus, and here's the deal. Nathan Totten kicked the ball out of the end zone every single time. Alec Clark kicks a 42-yard punt, and it was a fair catch. So we didn't even give them a chance to return. So big props there. I do want to say what a great job Totten did stepping in, but his long field goal out of the 3 was 27, and he missed a 32, and I can't remember what the other one was, but missing 2 field goals. And that muffed fair catch that we'll probably talk about here in a little bit by Chuck Montgomery. Luckily, the Southern Miss guy catches it in the air, and we get the penalty and get the ball back. Otherwise, we went down and scored. They were going to get the ball on a short field. Hard to tell what would have happened, but you can't have that in other games. So because you can't have it in other games, I'm going C minus on this, with the missed field goals and the muff punt being the majority of the reasons.
So I want to talk about that play just for a second, because we were tagged, and I don't know if you saw it. We were tagged in a response by the Southern Miss interim head coach about that play, and he said they got it right. The refs called it right.
They did.
As optically awkward as it looked, and it looked wrong, they got it right, because as he says, when the receiver calls a fair catch, it's his ball to catch, and
until it hits the ground.
And because he muffed it and it bounced into the arms of the Southern Miss player, never hit the ground, it was the right call, which is odd. That seems odd, but
The rule sounds stupid, but you do understand why they have the rule. If he, you wouldn't want him to barely bobble it an inch above and somebody be able to take it. I mean, because he's trying to do a fair catch. They probably need to somehow. I just don't know how you qualify that. Otherwise, there's just no way. I mean, how do you say within a 2-yard radius, or you know what I mean?
You don't. I mean,
there's no way.
You just got to let it hit the ground and then try to fall on it. That's all you can do. Yeah. But so it's a weird play, and it was obviously an uproar by all the Southern Miss fans, and to the untrained eye, Herd fans. I was like, "Ooh, we got away with one."
I told everybody that I was sitting with, because I was in the Southern Miss section with a friend of the show that gave us tickets, and I told them, I said, that's probably the worst call I've ever seen. Getting on the Spaces show as I'm driving home, I still called it that. That fan had seen that on Twitter, and that's when he had said, hey, I saw what the coach said, they got it right. And that's when I found out about the rule the next day driving home.
Just a weird football, and man, we have seen a lot of weird football plays lately. A couple weeks ago, a couple games ago, whatever, it was catch, not a catch by Fitzpatrick, and now it's this punt play. And I tweeted this. It's like there have been some bad calls lately. I think we got away with another turnover. They called an incomplete pass that
on Tyshawn Chapman
could have been, but you feel for them, because that's the type of season that Southern Miss is having. It's like when it's raining, it's pouring, and it seems to be pouring in Hattiesburg.
Yeah, they also had a long throw and catch that was overturned, and the ball barely hit the ground. It was the right call, but when you're looking from the stands and everything, they were all over the refs. But when you go back and watch and you hear the explanations, it seems like the refs got most of them right. And the one that was the most was not the punt. It was that Tyshawn Chapman catch and run that they said that he did not make enough steps to make a football play or whatever before
bang.
Yeah, because he did not have control of it enough, to make that football play. But anyway.
Very, very bang. So what do you got for the coaches?
Coaches, A+. They had them going down there. We said they cannot come out flat. They come out and they throw an absolute bomb. They come out and they do everything that they need to do on defense. To me, it's an execution thing. Look at how beautiful that play was, where Chuck Montgomery could have walked into the end zone. It was just slightly overthrown. We went for it on 4th and goal down there when you've got a backup kicker in. I love that, because what is Southern Miss going to be able to do against this defense this day? I loved all the calls. I loved how we had everything ready. Most of the things that I have problems with up here on my grades are just execution. So I give A+ for the coaches.
Yeah, I think coaches did a phenomenal job. They had the guys ready to play. They knew they were going up against an inferior opponent this week that had nothing to lose. And they were going to get their best effort, and ultimately they were just a better team in all phases, and they did it for 4 quarters, and even got the young guys in there to get game rep and game speed rep. And they allowed some yards, but ultimately they kept them out of the end zone, and that to me is that's the confidence builder. You can give up a few yards because you guys aren't used to playing in game speed as a unit. You know, a guy here, a guy there, maybe, but not all 11 of you. You know, and as far as I could tell, everybody really on offense came out as well, except Logan Osborne. Maybe he came out, but I thought he was the only guy that stayed in.
I can tell you that I looked more at the guards and tackles, and maybe it was the camera angle, you know, because I was trying to see who was in. I saw Clary was in. I saw, you know, a couple other people that were in. But no, I can tell you for a fact Osborne did come out because Eric Meeks was the backup center. Meeks was in number 57. So, yeah, Osborne came out as well. The only thing I want to say about those young guys who said they gave up yards, it still never felt like there was any danger of them giving up, like, and I'm not talking about them coming back to win, giving up even a touchdown until they threw into the end zone. And there was no danger of that being it looked like he was throwing to our guy instead of his, you know,
hell of a play by Jeter.
But the coverage was just there. So I think, you know, they gave up like 2, maybe 3 first downs on that drive, and it seemed so shocking that they did so because they hadn't done crap all the way up to that.
Yeah. All right, fans on this one, what you got?
I'm going incomplete because I was down there. I wasn't online, so I didn't get to see the usual stuff after the game even, you know, because I had to drive 2 straight days I had to drive. But we had less than 100 fans there.
Not surprising.
The majority of the fans that were there were player parents. And there were some other fans like me that drove down. I'm not saying that there weren't, but because there were less than 100 fans, I couldn't really get a gauge on, you know, how loud they were or anything like that. There was just so few of us, and we were kind of spread out. Even in the Marshall section, people kind of spread out because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And, you know, but I just have to go incomplete because I don't really have a gauge.
Well, online, they seemed to be okay. You know, they were all happy because we were kind of dominating a team.
Sure.
You know, and for all those fans that need that weekly, they got it. You know, so everybody was a little happier than normal. So, you know, it was a solid B- effort. You're always going to have the a-holes that want to have the hot take, but so the people that are never happy about anything ever. But for the most part, everybody was cool and they enjoyed the weekend. So overall, what do you got?
A++, and this may be the only plus I give out all year, but man, I went down because I wanted to experience Hattiesburg and the hospitality. I got it. Even with a lower attended game, you could tell what that place is all about. I was shown unbelievable, unparalleled hospitality. Any of you guys that will be there that's watching this from ODU or JMU, the next 2 road trips that I have this year, you guys have your work cut out for you because Mr. Chad Dickens hooked me up going down there. We had a great time. It was amazing overall. Throw in that dominant game that we have, the food that I had not only at the tailgate, but going out, if you haven't seen that on Twitter, at the Crescent City Grill. I don't play around with food, man. That was at least top 5 food dinners that I've ever had, top 5 dinners that I've ever had. So A++.
Wow. All right. So overall for me, it was all, what more can you get mad at? You get a win, you get a dominating performance by your best players, you know, and you keep pace in the East and keep it on rolling. 3-game win streak. What more do you want? Offensive MVP, who's your guy?
Braylon Braxton, you know, did it with the legs, did it with the arm, except for that interception. You know, he did a great job taking them up and down the field, putting them in the position that they needed to. But a special shout out to Ethan Payne, 13 for 104 and a touchdown. He did a great job as well.
Yeah, nothing against Braxton, but Ethan Payne's my guy this week. Hard yards, run, throwback type game, man. Yep. He was in it to dish out some punishment. and he had some long runs to go with it and found the end zone. Great all-around day. Defensively, come on.
Mike Green, however, special shout out to Ian Foster. You wondered if maybe those were special teams tackles mixed in, and they weren't because there were no opportunities for them. There were no kickoffs that were returned, and there were no punts that were returned. This man went out there in the nickel that they were in early. They were in the nickel most of the game, and he had 8 with I think 3 solo, 2 batted balls. One of those went right up in the air and got that Landon Watson near pick 6. And he had some tackles for loss as well. The man was just everywhere. Tremendous game by him.
Yeah, this kid is everywhere all year. So this is a microcosm of it, but it just happened to be on the defensive side of the ball. Excellent pick. Of course, it's got to be Mike Green in the 3-sack day, but man, Ian Foster, shout out to him too. Special teams MVP, who is your guy?
Nathan Totten, and even with the 2 misses, man, he steps in and he kicks 3 field goals, and he kicks the ball out of the end zone every time, doesn't even give them a chance to break one or put them up near midfield. So great game by him. I hope he can shake off those 2 misses by getting in there and nailing his first 3 collegiate field goals.
Yeah, I would be happier about the 3 that I hit for the first time ever than the 2 that I missed. So great game. Of course, it's 75 week now. As soon as that one was over, it was 75 week. We're going to talk about that here coming up in the ComAssist.ky.com Marshall football preview at the end of this. Well, it's not the end of this show, but we're going to come right back and have the preview. So it is now officially 75 week, but for now, we've also got to go around the herd.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with volleyball. They lost to App State 3-0 and 3-2 this weekend. But they'll be hosting Southern Miss on Thursday and Friday. Both of those games are at 6 p.m. So if you are coming in for 75 week and you'll be here for the fountain ceremony, you got something to do on Thursday night, and then you got something on Friday as well. Cross country, those NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regionals are coming up. And we don't have much info on that as far as like who's going to be in what or whatever. So just watch out on our social media. As it gets posted, we'll tell you if there's a place you can tune in and maybe watch Kylie Maston and some other people do their thing. Swim and dive, they keep that season going that we were talking about. Beat James Madison 196-103. James Madison is very good in the Sun Belt in the pool. And you can find how they nearly doubled James Madison up. You find all that on Herd Zone and see what your Kelsheimer's and all these other athletes did to run that score up. Basketball, as you know, tipped off. I keep saying kicked off. They tipped off their season, both women and men. So let's go over what has happened so far. Women's basketball, they lost on the road to Toledo 71-68 last Monday. Really quick on that game. They were up huge early. I think it was 20-5 and maybe even worse than that at some points. And then Toledo kept chipping away, coming back. And then the refs seemed to just take over. And I hate that because in the fourth quarter, there was a whistle every 3 seconds. And if Marshall was on the court, they were getting called for the foul. Comes down to the very, very end. We hit a 3 to tie the game with like 0.7 seconds left. And they said that Kellyon, even though she caught the pass, took a step back, hit the 3, nothing but net, they said she traveled while doing so. So it was just like ref, and Toledo versus Marshall. Even more of a heartbreak, they lost at home to Northern Kentucky 80-78 on a last-second 3 on Sunday. That one was back and forth again late in the fourth. We take the lead 78-77. They run a play from out of bounds, hit the 3, wide open. We only have a second or so to try to get a three-pointer off from the foul line of our side of the court. Obviously didn't make it. 0-2 so far, but they get to host Elon on Wednesday at 6 p.m. and George Mason on Sunday at 6 p.m. So you can get to the cam, be loud, and hopefully make a difference and let them right this ship and equal up the schedule so far.
Yeah, and let's take it a couple of notches farther on there. Yeah, it's an 0-2 start, and that sucks. But Meredith Mayer just had a career high in points in that game against Northern Kentucky. So CC Mays is off to a great start this season. Mm-hmm. There's some players, man. And remember, I'm not saying it's the same, but remember, last year the Herd struggled out of the gate. They
2-4.
We're not sure who they were, right? And then bam, the light went on and it was off to the races. But I will also say, if you do want to watch the Herd ladies play some basketball, there ain't no better tickets to win than the ones we got. And I'm going to tell you now, I teased it when we bought them, but we are third row behind the bench. So you can get in on all of the action.
You might get in for a 3 or something.
You never know. You're going to hear all the sights and the sounds. You're going to hear all the sounds of the game. It's like you're in the damn huddle. We've got great seats to give away all season long. So get in on those daggone tickets. It's an awesome time at the game.
The men already have, believe it or not, 10% of their season in, as they have had 3 games. They beat Davis and Elkins 90-57 at home on Monday of last week. They lost to Toledo 90-80 at home on Saturday, and then they beat Southern Indiana 77-63 last night at home. They host Bellarmine Saturday at 7 p.m. So if you are coming in for the 75-week football game and you are not going to see Sturgill Simpson downtown, you can go over to the basketball game and make it a very big doubleheader for you to watch football, get a little bit extra tailgating in, or go get dinner, and then go over to the cam and watch the men play.
Yeah, and I'm going to give some pressure to some local fans because I've got some family coming in from out of state that's going to go watch the Marshall game and then go to the basketball game. There's going to be 4 of them coming to double dip some Herd action, and they did not go to Marshall. They're coming. Devin and his crew and the family, they all came in for the Virginia Tech game last year because they're from Virginia. He had such a great time. They all had such a great time. They wanted to come back, and I was like, you got to come back for a 75 week. And I just thought, that may or may not ever happen. And by golly, it's happening the very next year, and they're coming in this weekend and going to catch the Herd on the gridiron and then catch the Herd in the cam. So if they can do it, you can do it. It'll be a great weekend, a great Saturday for sure.
Just a couple of quick highlights. We've been down Jalen Spear so far, and he is either going to be 6th or 7th man or starting at guard. So keep that in mind for this early season. We're not at full strength right now. Obina has not been at full strength. He is playing, but he just came off, didn't play in the fans first game. So it's early, and don't get too excited about what's going on with the men's team just yet until they're at full strength and everything. I tell you, Will Moore, true freshman, he stepped in and has done some pretty good things, and they said that he might be our best shooter as far as consistency with long range. So looking like over these next couple of games, we'll actually see when Spear comes back just what this team's made of.
Mm-hmm.
All right, men's soccer is going to finish us up. We played to a scoreless draw against WVU in that Mountain State derby. That gave WVU the regular season Sunbelt Conference championship, as bad as I hate to say it. So in the tournament, round 1, we beat Old Dominion 3-2 in the first round, and that was on Sunday. Real quick about that, we were down 1-0 at the half, and then we had not scored until about the 75th minute, and over the next 12 minutes, from that point on, we had 3 goals to their 1, and then the 89th minute, they got another late goal to make it 3-2, but very exciting game. It seems like when we finally scored, everything just broke loose for us.
Mm-hmm.
We will be hosting James Madison on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the second round. If we win that match, we'll be in the finals on Sunday with the highest remaining seed hosting. So if West Virginia wins, it'll be in Morgantown. If they don't win, we'll be in Huntington.
Right. Well, all I can say about that is, it sucks to not hoist the trophy, but they didn't beat us. You know, so
right.
they earned the championship. I'm not trying to say they didn't, but they did not beat us for the championship.
Yeah.
So I look at that and go, yeah, we beat ourselves because we let one of those games slip away.
Yeah.
You know,
those
play to
ties.
A draw.
Yeah.
We let one play to a draw that we shouldn't have, and that's all right. That's all right because this team's still freaking dangerous as hell. They can win the whole damn thing. Don't think they can't.
Yeah, that does it for Around the Herd.
Well, awesome. Great recap of the whole week in Herd Athletics and a lot to look forward to. We're going to have your deep dive into 75 week and Coastal Carolina coming to town and all of that coming up here in just a little bit. The episodes, of course, won't post the same day, but we're going to do it at the same time. So if you got nothing else, Russ, take us the heck out of here.
Whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Dot, whether you see us at the Joan, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It is the ThunderCast. We will see you in a couple of days with your 75-week preview. Later.